Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. It is your boy Christian, the Haver Card Man, coming back at you with another deck profile. And yes, I know I just released one of these a few weeks ago, but this has been way updated from the last one you've seen, but it went undefeated at locals. My rounds were round 1 Dragon Link, I went 2-0. Round 2 I went against like a rank 8 Turbo, also 2-0. And then round 3 I went 2-1 against Heroes. And then the one game loss that I had all day was simply because I bricked, which was a very rare occurrence for this deck. So let's just go ahead and get straight into the deck profile today. We are running triple copies of Rescue Ace Hydrant. I am aware that this is no longer the best starter in the deck, but he's still a great starter and also a great way to extend, so having 3 copies just feels right. Maybe when the Diabellstar stuff comes out, you can consider taking out a copy or 2 of this. Next up, 3 Rescue Ace Impulse. This is great going second to be able to establish plays before your opponent gets their board fully built, or even going second against like the right kind of board to be able to force out an interaction while also just getting like a Turbulence or a Hydrant straight from the deck. This card is just insane. I love Impulse. Next up is 3 copies of Rescue Ace Airlifter. This is your only 1-card combo in the deck, so mandatory that you play Airlifter at 3. We're also playing 1 Rescue Ace Fire Engine. This is a great target off of your Impulse, so that way when your opponent special summons a monster after you have him on field, you get a level 4 or lower, so you can summon like an Airlifter from the deck to be able to grab your combo and get going second. Next up, we are still playing 1 Preventer. You guys can say what you did or say what you want in the comments. I never missed the second one of these. It was perfectly fine. I maintained my grind game just fine with the 1 of Preventer. Everything worked out great with him. I never ended up bricking on him or anything like that. So playing it 1 copy for me just felt perfect the whole time. So I wouldn't bother putting it to 2. If you guys have troubles with that or you feel 2 is just better, by all means, play it how you feel. I'm not going to be hurt one bit. And finally, for the Rescue Ace monsters, we are running 2 copies of Rescue Ace Turbulence. It was worthwhile having the 2. Being able to have 1 for turn 1 setup and then grabbing the second one turn 3 to get both on board and just have 2 really big bodies to beat in was really nice. Turbulence is your biggest playmaker for the deck. Once your plays are online and you get to him, you just get everything you need. So now onto the spells here. We are running triple copies of Emergency. This is your biggest spell in the deck. Airlifter grabs you this, and this gets you full combo. The reason that this isn't full combo on its own is because you do need a Rescue Ace monster on field or in hand to tribute on resolution. So if you don't draw any other Rescue Ace monsters with it, you'll just end up having to tribute whatever you summon off of it. So it is kind of a dead card in that regard, but still a great card to run at 3. It helps you once again get your plays going. It also can help you play around interaction and be able to do or have extra interaction during your opponent's turn. Emergency is just a fantastic card and I love it. We're playing 1 copy of Alert, mostly to be able to set off of Turbulence and then search another monster with our Hydrant on field. Or if we just open it, we just search another monster with Hydrant right there. Fantastic card. Can't go wrong with it, but you only really needed 1 because it's so searchable. 1 Rescue. This, basically, with the way that the deck is built, ends up becoming a disruption one way or another. Either you're using it to revive your Preventer to get a disruption from Book of Moon, or you're using it to revive one of your opponent's monsters from their graveyard that they need to do stuff, and then it becomes a disruption in that regard. And lastly, for the spells, we are running 1 copy of the field spell. Just mandatory to play. I was running 2 before, but honestly, I felt like I didn't have to grind too much with this deck. I had enough gas that I was able to push for game quickly enough that I didn't have to worry about it, and I would be able to search this. Like if I went first, I'd be able to get this on turn 2 with my Preventer. For the trap cards here, we are still running the Reinforce. I've noticed a lot of people cutting this out of their list. I can't say that that's wrong. I just really like it because it's a way to help me push for game, or it really just keeps my board alive if my opponent tries to remove it. For the other ones, we are running 1 Contain and 1 Extinguish. I mean, you have an Effect Negate and a Monster Pop that get bonus effects with Hydrant on field. They're just fantastic. You need to play them. So that's it for our Rescue Ace engine here. Now we'll go ahead and get on to all of the non-engine stuff in the main deck. So we'll start off. We have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. With the limited amount of space I had for hand traps, I wanted to play stuff that was either the most impactful or that had ways to synergize with the deck, and Ash was kind of like that perfect middle ground because Ash hits a lot of different cards in a lot of different decks, but is also a fire monster that we can use for our own stuff, as we'll see later. Next up, 3 copies copies of Droll and Lockbird. It's just an excellent card this format. It can be a turn ender for certain decks, which is why I'm running it, but if it doesn't work in the matchup, I have no problem with siding it out. But like I said, I just wanted the biggest kind of turn ender type stuff in my hand or things that would synergize. Next up, we're playing 2 Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. I know that kind of contradicts what I just said, but Ghost Mourner is also just very flexible in what it can do. It's not like Veiler where you can only use it during your opponent's turn, and it's not like Imperm where if you've used your impulse effect, then you can't use it. It's still alive. Also helps with games going to time, which this deck does have some troubles with. Next up here, we are running 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. I know this seems desperate, and it kind of is. We need the ban list. We'll dig into why we're playing this later, but next up here we do have 3 copies of Hida the Fire Channeler. This is reason number 1 that we're playing Volcanic Shell. This Hida allows you to discard itself and another fire monster from your hand to add a fire monster from your deck whose attack is greater than the other monster discarded. So if you discard Hida and a Shell, this gets you basically any Rescue Ace monster except for Hydrant. The biggest thing is that it gets you Airlifter, which gets you full combo. The only sad part about Hida is it does lock you into using only fire monster effects for the rest of the turn. So that can be kind of rough, but a lot of the times you don't really care, especially if you're going first. Just absolutely fantastic card. And then with the Shell, you basically end up losing no advantage with this. For the rest of the non-engine here, we are running triple Book of Moon because it's just an amazing card, this format. It helps us play offensively, defensively, because our Turbulence doesn't care if it's set to be able to get the 4 back row, and also helps us be able to break boards or uses extra disruption going first. Fantastic card. Also, this format would not be complete without playing 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, so I love this card. Triple Tactic just feels really strong, especially when you're playing a deck that kind of can revolve around your opponent interacting to some extent, so that does help. All right, now for the extra deck. We have 3 Link 1s to start off with here. We have a Link Haribo, Salamangreat Almirage, and a Relinquished Anima. There are different reasons for all of these. The first one, they all work with Volcanic Shell. These are also great ways to link off Rogue Hydrant if you need to, like if you open up one of the older combos where you just need to get him in grave. They all work great. Almirage only works on normal summons, so we have the Link Haribo as backup, but ultimately Almirage is better, and then Anima's only really good going second. So there's kind of the rough theory on that. There's a lot of flex spots in this extra deck, so feel free to maneuver it however you want. This next one, once Age of Overlord comes out, I'm going to be cutting this for SP Little Knight. The Proxy F, the whole Proxy F line for Mud Dragon has kind of felt underwhelming to me. It feels like you have to go really neg just to be able to protect a Turbulence, and there's a lot of hands that like don't even really make it before getting your Turbulence out, so I think it's just kind of rough. I don't care for it as much. We are playing 1 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. This card has been amazing. There's a lot of times where I'll link off a Preventer and another monster to go into this, and then I'll be able to special summon my banished monster to his zone, and then add Preventer back to my hand for follow-up. It's just hilarious, or even other monsters too. There's sometimes I do other ones, but Sunlight Wolf, just absolutely fantastic card, allowing you to keep your grind game going, and it's just fantastic. 1 Hida the Fire Charmer Ablaze. This actually does help to close out games. I did end up having to crash it once to be able to search a fire monster for my deck, which really allowed me to keep playing, which was fantastic. This card is just great utility. The biggest reason for it is to be able to revive back any fire monster that might be in your opponent's graveyard, like an Ash Blossom or something like that, and then be able to link climb up from there into an access code to find lethal. We are also playing the Nightmare Phoenix. One of this deck's biggest struggles is back row, so we want to make sure we at least have some way to be able to start dealing with back row should the scenario come up. It's also a fire monster, hilariously enough, so you can use it under Hida, which is fantastic. The reason that we're playing the 1 field spell is because we have the barricade board blocker here. This allows you to be able to protect your 1 field spell, be able to add back your 1 field spell. It just makes it not feel as bad to play only 1 field spell if you do get into that grind game. So I love having him in here for that exact reason. Next up is 1 IP Masquerena. I mean, you can't really have a going first end board without an IP Masquerena, especially in such a mid-range deck like this. IP is huge. There's a lot of interactions it has where you can link it and a Preventer off after you've used the Preventer's effect to Book of Moon to be able to make the next card, which is Nightmare Unicorn. So you're basically ending up with 2 disruptions out of all that. And then once you link off the Preventer, you can summon back a Banished Rescue Ace monster, which is usually Airlifter, which then adds you the field spell so that you have your grind game on for next turn. So you get 2 disruptions and easy follow-up. And then if you have another Rescue Ace machine in your hand, you can even use the Airlifter that you summon back to tag out into whatever's in your hand. I just absolutely love all the interactions that are possible with this kind of a package. Of course, you can't have IP and Unicorn without the big boy access code Talker to help close out games. This deck doesn't really have an issue with pushing for game. It's just the fact that access code can help break boards while also pushing for game that makes him so fantastic. And for that reason, I just can't see playing him without, or playing this deck without him, especially once again with how flexible this extra deck is. Next up here, our last Link monster is one Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. It never ended up coming up, but I like having it just in the circumstance that there's a monster that I just simply can't deal with. So lastly up in the extra deck here, we are running 1 copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp, as you saw earlier for the Proxy F line, which never did come up. I never needed it, but I guess it's nice to know that it's there. It's neat, if nothing else. And then we have 1 Garura, Wings of Resonant Life. We'll get more into this in the side deck. And then lastly here, a Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Same thing. I'm sure you can already guess what's coming, but like I said, we'll dig into that into the side deck. Speaking of, let's go ahead and get into the side deck right now. We're going to start off with 1 Rescue Ace Fire Attacker. This just isn't good in all matchups, so I don't like wasting the space in the main deck. It was kind of like one of those last-second cuts I had to make, but I didn't want to cut it out entirely in case there were games where it was really relevant. And I think I did side this in like once or twice, and it wasn't bad. It's just not as good as Fire Engine. So like I said, I just like keeping it as an extra target should I find a matchup where it ends up being really, really good. Otherwise, I just leave it out. Next up here, we're playing 1 Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju, and 1 Lava Golem. I wanted to play one of these once again because I'm playing the Hida package. If I had Kurikara, that would be one of these slots. I'll be honest, I just don't. Lava Golem is for when you open the combo that doesn't need a normal summon. You can get rid of 2 of your opponent's big monsters that are hard to deal with. Or if you do need your normal summon, you go for Dogoran, and you can deal with a very problematic monster right there. So you just kind of side both of these in, and if you draw 1, it's great. Then you can use your Hida to search something else. But really, it's just because they're so easy to search off of your Hida, and they fulfill different positions. So I liked running both of them, but I didn't want to run them in multiples, so I just stuck with running the Hidas and then siding these in. Next up, 2 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being. There are some matchups where it ends up being good. Next up here, for more board breakers, we are running triple copies of Super Poly. Just absolutely fantastic card, and this is another reason that we're playing the Volcanic Shell, because you can discard Shell off of this, and you actually end up gaining advantage most times if you're fusing off 2 of your opponent's monsters. It's just fantastic. This is why we're playing the Garura, Mud Dragon, and Starving Venom. It just gives you a lot of options to be able to deal with your opponent's board and give you things to use on your field, which is fantastic. Next up here, like I mentioned earlier, the deck does have some serious problems with dealing with other macro decks, and as such, we're playing triple copies of Twin Twisters, another way to be able to play your Volcanic Shell and not really lose advantage. More back row hate here. We are running the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Great card. It didn't come up at this locals, but I know that if I ever face up against a back row deck, I have this available. And then lastly here, this is good for against back row and combo decks. We have triple copies of Evenly Matched. It's just such a good card that I don't see any reason not to play it. That is it for the deck today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Like I said, this did go undefeated in my locals, and it may not be the perfect build, but I had a really good time with it. It performed really well. Let me know what you guys think of the Volcanic Shell Hida engine in there. I thought it was kind of cool. The shell for advantage was actually really nice. It came in clutch a lot of times, provided me a lot of follow-up, just kept my hand full, allowing me to discard to be able to do a lot of things that just kind of felt a little bit absurd. So let me know what you guys think of this deck down in the comments. I had a really fun time cooking this up. I have been just putting in so much effort into figuring this deck out, and I can't wait for the Age of Overlord stuff, so definitely expect an update when all of those cards come out. But until then, guys, thank you so much for joining. As always, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are on the road to 2K right now, and you guys are absolutely fantastic at killing that. And then we will see you guys all in the next video. As always, remember, good fun. Have luck.